Great review. I know you guys have been waiting for this one, and it's finally here. The video you guys have all been waiting for. Pops' brand new 2024 Basscat Puma STS. It's finally here in the shop, secured, and we're about to do a full walkthrough of everything here on the boat. Oh, I'm gonna be here behind the camera. Pops is gonna be walking you guys through back to front. There's gonna be a special guest talking about all the electronics on the boat. The brother who works over at Texas Boat Works did all the electronic rigging, and yeah, it's gonna be fun. Pops is gonna dictate everything. We're just gonna show you guys how we rigged out this boat. It's pretty special, and it's specific to exactly how Pops would like it to fish. So without further ado, Pops, take it away.
All right, so before I even get started talking about this boat, there's two things I have to do first. I have to recognize a couple guys. First off, Troy Ash and Kyle Smith over here at Texas Boat Works. These guys did a phenomenal job of rigging the boat. I kind of gave Kyle a hard time because I went from different graphs on front to a different graph on front to a different graph at the console. So I want to thank them first for putting in all the effort and energy for rigging this boat out, but also for being patient with me because I was pretty specific on what I wanted when I finally got it torn down to what I wanted to put on this boat specifically. So here we go. Right here, 4-stroke Mercury, 300 horsepower. I've got a tad over 3 hours right now on this motor, and within the first 2 hours of break-in, you can run it up to wide open throttle. I have yet to get it to wide open throttle. However, pushing 5,800 RPM, I did see speeds of 76. So to Basscat's credit on this boat right here, y'all know I used to own a Lynx. The two rides are not even comparable. This boat handles cruiser wakes, 4-footers. Kyle and I did some on-the-water testing with this boat on Possum Kingdom for about an hour and a half worth of driving around. And this boat just performed flawlessly through the cruiser wakes. You know, West Texas has high winds. Every day out there it blows 20 plus, so you've got the lake churned up by rollers and such. But this platform right here performed flawlessly, and it compares nothing to the Lynx that I once had. So, Mercury 300. On the back, as you can see, we have the power pole blades. These are 6-footers. Down here, of course, everybody's got to have a Bob's hydraulic jack plate on their boat. One of the fastest jack plates on the market, and just operates flawlessly. From bottom to top, it takes roughly 4 seconds. So it's got a total lift of about 8 inches on it. However, 4-strokes like to be run tucked deep into the water. So the more sea time I get, the more handling of this boat I get. We'll start playing with the up and down motion on the jack plate to see where we go. Power poles both sides. On the top here, we've got the NBTmarine light, power pole light. Something that I appreciate is not having to jump into a rod locker at the end of a windy Wednesday nighter, fumbling to pull the light out of the rod locker. I have it. If this one goes out, I will use it. But for now, it's just push a button and go. So it saves you a few seconds rummaging through your doggone rod locker looking for your power pole light or your light to go in the bow of the boat. One of the unique things that Texas Boat Works did when Kyle was rigging this boat is he used braided cable sleeving and adhesive shrink wrap on the cable sleeving to go over these power pole hoses. It's clean, it looks good, it's sharp. You don't have cables flopping around, and it just looks finished, and it looks really good. We did go ahead and order the NBTmarine brackets for the power pole hoses to go through. You know, a lot of times when they put these power poles in the splash well of the boat, there's just a rubber grommet there. This is stainless steel, powder coated black for both sides of the power poles with braided cable sleeving and adhesive shrink tubing going over that cable sleeving. So the motor toter that I use with this outboard, I had it on the Lynx as well, is the DD26 motor toter. It is specifically made for the 250 and the 300 horsepower 4-strokes, and just a great product. Motor hardly shakes at all. I also have the steering stops, which everybody knows with a 4-stroke you have to have the steering stops, and the blade straps. Probably one of the biggest things that I wanted to see in this boat was the batteries, because Kyle and I talked a lot about that. I know a lot of guys preach AGM, I know a lot of guys use wet cell, and I know a lot of guys that are now turning to lithium. So let's pop open the back compartments here and see exactly how I rig this thing out with batteries. So one of the nice things about the Basscat line of boats is they're removable lids. You have one bungee cord, the lid slides off, and then you just stick it down into your cockpit if you have to work on the back end of the boat. Once those lids come off, you have full access to everything that's inside the boat, from your pumps to your fuel gauges to your batteries, the whole 9 yards. So the battery system that I chose to go with was a full lithium system. I know a lot of guys are just now transitioning into that. In fact, it's the big thing here for most bass boats now are all lithium systems. I chose to go that direction, and here's my reasoning behind it. My trolling motor batteries, I have two 38.4 volt batteries by Powerhouse Lithium. These two batteries give me 40 amp hours each for a total of 80 amp hours when I'm on the water. In fact, Wednesday night, in this last Wednesday nighter, we had 25 to 30 mile an hour winds. I was on the trolling motor hard all day long until the very end. And both batteries, according to the Powerhouse Lithium app I have on my phone, said that both batteries were sitting at 70%. So when you have your trolling motor on 6 to 7 and it's on constant and you're fishing down a bank, these batteries pack a good punch. The reason I went with a parallel system is for redundancy. If I lose a battery on the water, I still have the capability of fishing. All I have to do is remove the jumper between the two, move the negative battery terminal over to the other negative battery, and I can continue fishing. So that's why I went with the Powerhouse Lithium system. Number one, customer support. Number two, it's a great product. And something that I also do with my batteries is I have a 60 amp breaker here that I flip every time I get off the water into the off position. The 60 amp is located right here on the main trolling motor battery. So let's talk about what I did with my electronics. I have a dedicated 16 volt, 140 amp hour battery that runs nothing but the electronics on the boat. So the two electronics in the front of the boat, the two at the helm, are all run off of this one battery. And here in just a second, I'll show you how that redundancy kicks in. Okay, so the last battery I need to explain to you is the magical battery, or the cranking battery. It is a 12 volt, 160 amp hour cranking battery. You know, one of the unique things about Powerhouse Lithium is they have a built-in jump start button on the top of their batteries. So if I'm out on the water and for some reason my cranking battery dies, I can push down on that jump start button, hold it in for 3 seconds, and it gives enough charge, reserve charge, to the outboard to crank it up.
Well, anybody else as confused about how many batteries are in the boat as I am? I think at one point I thought he said 5, but if you guys don't believe me, there's only 4 batteries in there, trust me. It's just the redundancy of it, and he will explain it, trust me. But we'll jump back into it, and trust me, it'll all make sense. Just bear with us.
Okay, so one of the last things we need to discuss is there's a lot of switches, there's a lot of circuit breakers inside the back of this boat. And I want to make sure that you guys have a working knowledge of how all this stuff works. There's 2 basic Perco switches on this boat. This Perco switch here, the smaller of the 2, controls the power poles. So in the off position, there is no power going to the power poles whatsoever. All I have to do is, before I start my day, is click it over into the on position, and the power poles are fired up. Now, the second Perco switch here is the master Perco switch. And what I mean by the master Perco switch is it basically controls my electronics battery, my cranking battery, and something else I haven't shown you yet called the run and gun. So with this Perco switch in the number 2 position, all the electronics are running off of the 16-volt battery that I discussed earlier. When I turn this Perco switch over to the number 1 slot, all the electronics will be run off the cranking battery. So if my 16-volt battery goes down while I'm on the water, all I have to do is switch that Perco switch over to the number 2 position, and all the electronics will be running off of that cranking battery. So let's talk about that run and gun and show you the charger that I put inside here. Okay, so as I was talking about redundancy, I have redundancy in my charging system as well. The charging system itself is a 2-bank charger. It is a 12-volt charger and is a 36-volt charger. Obviously, the 36-volt charger takes care of your trolling motor batteries, and the 12-volt charger takes care of the 12-volt cranking battery. So you're probably wondering then, okay, so how do you charge your 16-volt electronics battery? This is how we do it. That little device down in there that Caleb showed you is called the run and gun. Now, when the breaker for the run and gun is on and the big motor is running, the big motor automatically charges the cranking battery. Once that cranking battery reaches a full charge, it starts floating because of the run and gun. It floats that 12-volt charge into a 16-volt right into my electronics battery. So while the big engine's running, that run and gun charger floats a 12-volt current into a 16-volt current into my electronics battery. So that way I have that redundancy of charging both batteries while the big motor's running. So when I get home at night and I plug it into the charger, I leave my run and gun on, and it's the same principle. That electrical current goes into the charger, it starts feeding the cranking battery. Once the cranking battery is charged, it floats that charge over to that 16-volt battery for my electronics. So what does this mean to you and how it helps me while I'm out on the water? My batteries are constantly being charged, from the cranking battery to the electronics battery. And something that you guys got to understand is when you're using live scope, you want the cleanest electricity you can get going to those devices. That's why I have this redundancy taking place, is that 16-volt battery, when I came in out the Wednesday nighter, it was already at 100%. So the charging was minimal for that battery. But it's just that redundancy when you look at it. So I'm constantly charging both batteries every time I'm on the water and the big engine's running.
Alrighty, so man, that was a lot of information to take in. So with everything that we're discussing here in the boat, we're gonna break down everything. I think that's probably the most complicated section of the boat, is how the batteries and the electronic systems are powered. Now, granted, everything is gonna be listed in the description below. All links to everything, where to purchase them, and the exact way to buy them. They're gonna be down in the description below, so if you guys wanna go check them out for yourself, go ahead and take a look. So now I've just jumped up on the boat. We're gonna kind of get into the deck layout and how the cap is laid out for fishing. Like I said, this is a Puma STS. If you guys watch my channel, Pops and I have the same boat. Granted, this is a different model, so the deck layout's slightly different. If you guys watch the channel, you've seen my boat. There's a lot of similarities in this. Granted, his is a little bit wider, a little bit longer, but a lot of it's very similar. So we're gonna jump into compartments, live wells, storage, center console, driver's seat, everything that you guys are gonna wanna know, how this boat's laid out, where rods are kept, where tackle's kept, where storage is. So let's jump into it.
So one of the unique things that Basscat did, you know, when you're talking about your power poles, they're like sitting right here. So how do you get to them? You got to have either 8-foot long arms coming in from the backside, or Basscat Ingenuity has redesigned their rear storage compartments. They are a little bit shallower, they are a little bit smaller, but what they went and did is once you open up the compartment lid, this little triangular piece lifts up as well. You have a little storage area right here, and then you can get into your power pole pump. You can get into your power pole pump, you can get into your live well screens to clean them out, and it just makes it so convenient because they're right here in your face. And of course we have our typical Basscat live wells. These live wells are about shoulder length deep if you reach all the way into the bottom. They're triangular in shape, and the reason Basscat does that is because it cuts down on the impact that it has on the fish from the sloshing of the waves when you're running your boat. Okay, I chose to go with the fiberglass step box. One of the reasons I chose to do that is, number one, you've got your storage here, and then you also have underdeck storage of your step box as well, which actually serves as a secondary cooler. Also, you have storage under both seats in the live well. And let me mention something about these seats real quick. These are their new Wave Crusher seats. When you hit a 4-foot roller from a 40-foot doggone luxury yacht, and you get launched a little bit in the air, I found this out down at Possum Kingdom, these seats really do absorb all that shock.
Alrighty, so yeah, man, that's a lot. We've gone through batteries, motor, power poles, live wells, all the really good stuff, storage, seats, cooler. I'm gonna go ahead and throw it over to Kyle over in Texas, over at Texas Boat Works, and he's gonna just jump into his side of the things, the rigging that he did for the electronics before Pops and I back home jump into it. So Kyle, take it away.
Hey guys, Kyle here with Texas Boat Works. I got the special privilege of being able to rig out my dad's brand new 2024 Puma STS with a Mercury 300 Pro XS on it. We've got quite a few cool little upgrades that we've done to the boat, and most of you know my dad through Caleb's channel and watching the Wednesday Nighter series, and so I got to document that build, and that's why they've been in Caleb's boat, you know, up until this point. So hopefully you guys like it, get to see a little bit of what Texas Boat Works can do. We're a little bit different than, you know, every other dealer out there. We NEMA certified, and you know, we take care of rigging the boat properly, the right way, the first time. And this is going to be a cool little build. I hope you guys like it. All right, so on the nose of the boat, Pops went with a Garmin Force trolling motor. We put the LVS 34 on a Ratchet mount. All the stuff that I'm going to talk about will be linked in the description. You know, you'll be able to go through and kind of pick and choose and see what we did for this build. So the Ratchet mount, it's out of Canada, pretty good setup. I mean, it's billet aluminum, it's sturdy, it's stainless steel too. They've got stainless hardware. It's really, really well engineered. As far as the graphs on the nose of the boat, we went with two NBT 16-inch destroyers. Yes, two 16s. Mitch over at NBT, we had a little hiccup and we worked through it, and they 2-day aired the 16s back to us. We ended up getting two 22s in, so shout out to Mitch and NBT. I appreciate you guys working with me, making sure this build gets done on time. So if you haven't checked out NBT yet, absolutely go see what their product's all about. I mean, anybody that watches fishing has seen the NBT monitors. Those NBTs are sitting on a Boat Technologies mount. It's the dual Taki mount with the NBT plate and gimbals. Not cheap, but you know, you get what you pay for. And Van and his team over at Boat Technologies, hands down, best customer service out there as far as the mounts go. It's always a pleasure to work with them. If I have any questions, you know, about something, they usually, you know, either respond back with an email or I talk to Van, you know, via the phone. So that's pretty much it for the nose. On the console, we went with two Garmin 8612s, again on a dual mega dash mount from BBT. Wired that all in, and it's pretty slick. The boat's got a hot foot, kind of standard, dual blinker trim, 8-inch Bob's hydraulic jack plate. In the back of the boat, we went with, as far as batteries go, we went with an entire Powerhouse Lithium setup. And RJ over at Powerhouse, the dude is extremely knowledgeable, always answers the phone, willing to help out. Again, we had a hiccup with one of the batteries. I kid you not, it was right before Memorial Day that the NBTs were the wrong ones and the battery had an issue. And I had both the battery and the NBTs on Wednesday. So, you know, these companies, they're pretty much like mom and pop companies. They're small, but they work extremely hard to make sure their product's right. And I appreciate, RJ over there, and thanks very much for making this happen. So batteries, we went with two 36 volt, 40 amp hours wired in parallel. It's got a 2-bank charger. So it's got a 12 volt for the 12 volt lithium crank-in. We went with a 12 volt 160 amp hour crank-in battery. And then the two 36 volts, obviously will get charged. But we also added the run-and gun. And what the run-and gun does is it allows the electronics battery, the dedicated electronics battery, to be charged when that 2-bank charger's on or the big motor's running. You just got to pop the breaker and make sure the flag's in, and it'll take care of the 16 volt. So yeah, pretty cool little setup. I mean, it's got blades, it's got the 300 Merc on it, all the standard features, reflex flooring, padded front deck, double coated on the old trailer so that, the rock chips don't tear it up. It's really going to be a tricked out boat. And, I hope you guys enjoy Caleb's video on it. If you guys are in the market for a Basscat or a Blazer Bay boat, we're getting ready to start carrying another brand of aluminum. I don't know if I can divulge that information yet, but they're a mom and pop company, kind of like Basscat started out with. Look us up. If you're wanting rigging, that's something that we can help with too. And we've had people come from Oklahoma and New Mexico, Louisiana, and here we are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Big things coming. We've got, I can't spoil this one, but we've got a Elite Series guy that we may be rigging his boat here shortly. So it's pretty cool. It's neat to see what God's blessing this company with, and hopefully it continues on for the future. I just want to say thanks to Dad for entrusting me to do this, and I hope you guys enjoy it, and hopefully there's some better content and Caleb and Dad can actually get on some fish for the Wednesday nighters.
All right, so let's talk about just the captain's spot for just a moment. As you notice here on the floor, I chose to go with the reflex flooring on the floor. This is where 90% of the abuse happens, as you know, from getting in and out of the boat and walking across it and all that stuff. I decided to go with the reflex flooring to test it out to see how good the product really is. So far, so good. I've had it out 4 times now, and nothing yet to complain about. I have a T&H Marine hotfoot underneath the dash, and on my console right here, I've got two 8612s. And as Kyle explained, these 8612s feed all of this information to the front of the boat. So the last thing I'm going to talk about here at the helm, everything else is pretty standard, as you see on any other bass boat, is this monstrous doggone ice chest that I have sitting as my step up to the front deck.
Alrighty, just finished up half of the boat. How you feeling, Pops?
It's a lot.
It is a lot of work. Pops is getting a taste of what filming's like. So normally he just sits in front of the camera.
That's why I don't do it.
Yeah, normally he just sits in front of the camera and catches fish. So, all right, so we got half the boat done. We got from the helm back. Now we're just gonna do the front deck layout, trolling motor drafts. So why don't you tell them how you have everything laid out? Actually, basically everything from here up is the same as my boat, correct?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much.
So why don't you go ahead
It's not as dirty as your boat, but it's definitely
mine needs a little bit of cleaning. It's got a lot of Delta on her. Alrighty, take her away, Pops.
The front deck is laid out like any other Puma. Main rod storage, superfluous rod storage, and then the 2 middle compartments, the 3 middle compartments are for your bait and tackle. And then in the center, where you see the carabiner at, that's where you have your net scabbard. So I travel light when I fish. I don't put a lot of stuff in my boat because I just become confused as far as deciding what to throw on the day. So I keep it pretty slim down. This side has 12 rods. That side has 5 rods. Minimal tackle. And then in the 2 front compartments, I have 8 different 3700 size Plano boxes that I put in there that have basically topwater baits, chatter baits, my hooks and sinkers and that type of stuff. I've noticed that this boat needs to have a little more weight center to front. It really makes the ride unbelievable. So for me, and the way I drive it and the way I've got stuff in here now, that's pretty much. So I'm going to pop these hatches open and let you see kind of how my stuff is laid out. Not a lot of tackle in it right now. I still got a bunch that I'm still thinking about putting in here, but for fishing the Delta, we kind of keep it pretty bare bones to a minimum. Storage
Done. So yeah, one thing that I will say, that even though the deck layout from my boat to my dad's is 100% exactly the same, there is a significant amount more room up front. I mean, I could lay down, granted I'm not a very tall man, but I could lay down horizontally across this bow. It's very wide. So the Puma is no longer a skinny boat. So definitely a lot more bow than the old Pumas. So now we're gonna jump down. We're gonna explain the front graphs, the trolling motor, I believe, the live scope mount, and a couple other little gadgets that are on the front of the boat and the reason for them being there.
Okay, as you guys heard from Kyle, up here on the front deck, I decided to go with NBT 16-inch destroyers. It's kind of unique setup. Number one, the BBT mount that that these two things are mounted on is just absolutely rock solid. Van did a terrific job of coming up with a mount, because nobody on the West Coast that I'm aware of, maybe there are some folks, and I apologize if there are, aren't running this type of system. Why did I get 16s? I'm getting old, and my eyesight's not so good anymore. And these things are friggin' awesome. Offshore or on a rock pile, on structure that's off the bank, when you're in your down view or when you're in your forward view with live scope. And I really, so far, really like these NBTmarine 16-inch destroyers. Sitting in the cockpit, I have no blockage of my view. I can see perfectly over the top of them. And really, there's only 3 cables that control these. You have a power cable, you have an HDMI cable that goes to your 8612s back there on the console. So everything that is up here on the front for transducers or anything like that is being fed from the console. So you take all your wiring, you run it to the backside of your Garmin's, and then on your HDMI cable coming back up to the top, they plug into the back of these, and you're basically mirroring what is back there on your dash. Just an awesome, neat concept, and these NBTmarines are pretty legit. One more thing before we transition into the power making it happen or here up front is the braided cable sleeving once again, and the adhesive shrink tubing that they use on all their cable system running throughout the boat. It's sharp, makes it look tight. You don't have cables hanging out everywhere. So now let's look at the trolling motor. Me, I'm a Garmin guy, so I just wanted the whole system to be the same. So I stuck with the Garmin 36 volt, 50-inch trolling motor. The reason I like Garmin so much is just the customer service. I've had Garmin trolling motors now for, I think I'm going on my 6th year. I've had to replace 3 of them. 1 to my fault, 2 to the manufacturers. But their customer service has always been there and has always taken care of me. All right, let's talk about my live scope system now, because I went a little bit different way than a lot of other folks did with the live scope system. I chose to use a Ratchet mounting system for the LVS 34 transducer. The Ratchet system is out of Canada, and this system is really cool. The way this Ratchet system works is you've got an anodized aluminum mount. You have the horse collar coming off the shaft. But I am seriously excited about this mount, and let me tell you why. This mount here actually has a D for down, a P for perspective, and an F for forward. And it's got the corresponding lines on it for each one of those settings. With the old live scope, even the LVS 34 now, if you use the package straight out of the box, you can't tell where you're at in your live scope system, because you have to get up underneath the transducer to look at it. And that's why I went with this Ratchet system, because when you're out on the Delta and you're fishing heavy grass and you're trying to use live scope, which it actually is not a bad idea to try for some of you guys that haven't used it out there yet, the grass will knock this thing off. Well, with these little lines that are on there, it's easy to set it back up. Takes all of about 10 seconds. But the really cool thing about it is the perspective mode. And when you go into the perspective mode, you'll swing the LVS 34 out to where the black lines line up. You grab hold of the transducer, spin it, and you're now in perspective mode. Now, one of the other neat things about it too, perspective mode is really good from about 2 or 3 feet all the way down to about 15. However, with this Ratchet system, I can micro adjust my angle, or the angle of the beam coming out of the cone, to work better for deeper water. So you can make micro adjustments, adjusting your beam as you are using this system, which makes it really cool. To put it back into forward or down, pull out, twist, push, you're done. So as you can see, that Ratchet mount is just, I like it. I mean, it is something that is going to improve my fishing. Well, it might not improve my fishing, but it'll let me see a lot more fish just by making those micro adjustments. The last thing I'm going to show you real quick up front are the stomp switches, where I put them and why I put them there. So these stomp switches are definitely out of the way. So when I'm fishing up front on the front deck, I'm not kicking them at any time while I'm up here fishing, because they're moved enough forward that I don't have to worry about them. And as you guys know, these stomp switches has an arrow down and an arrow up. Those control your power poles from the front of the boat. So that pretty much wraps up our walkthrough on my new boat, the Puma STS. I just want to give a great big shout out to Texas Boat Works, both Kyle Smith and Troy Ash. You guys just did a phenomenal job rigging the boat. I can't say anything more about that than that, because the guys just went above and beyond in putting this thing together for me, and I just totally appreciate it. So to Texas Boat Works, thank you. Now, there are a couple other things I'm really thinking about doing to the boat as well. DD26 has come out with some really nice foam pads to put down in various locations on the boat. You can see that over at DD26. They make it for the console, they make it for the front end of the boat. There's one for the passenger side of the boat as well. They make some step pads where the Jesus handle is on the passenger seat. I'm thinking about throwing those on here. Haven't got to that point yet. Why don't you guys take a look at them over on DD26 and let me know what your thoughts are. Thanks a lot.
Whew, man, that was a lot. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that, man. I know you guys love seeing Pops in front of the camera. He's a natural, absolute natural. Well, I saw an interesting statistic on YouTube today. Did you guys know that only 4% of channels actually hit 10,000 subscribers? So I'd really appreciate it for you guys. I know this is something different. It's a boat walkthrough, never done something like this before, so hopefully it turns out really well. Hopefully you guys like it. Let us know in the comments down below if you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have any questions at all, Pops goes through all the comments. He looks too. We'll try to answer any questions that you guys have. Yeah, let us know. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We're trying to hit 10,000. Like I said, 4% of channels out there hit 10,000. So I'm trying to become one of those 4%. But thanks for everything, guys. Pops is extremely happy, let me tell you. I know for a fact that in this boat, like the Basscat slogan goes, he's gonna feel the rush. So hope you guys liked and enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that little ding dong bell so you're notified like when this video comes out. And remember, any cast could be a giant. Peace!